what do you do to maintain your own voice and authenticity in what you do?
And is that related to music or just in life?
Whichever you think's more interesting.
I guess in music, since we're on the topic. How do I maintain my own voice?
Voice and authenticity. I think you used the word essence as well, if you want to really...
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Who asked that? That's a good one.
I'll tell you afterwards. I don't think it makes much difference, really, whether you know who it is or not. But
how do I maintain all that? Probably just, I don't know, just staying true to myself, not really taking outside influence when I'm in the zone of like writing music and expressing myself and my emotion. I don't really think it's anyone's place to like tell me how I should feel or how I should project how I feel. So I guess that's a good way of maintaining authenticity.
Yeah. How do you there's obviously that balance where to an extent you like every musician to an extent is sort of a sum of their influences in some way. How do you sort of, how do you make sure that you keep the voice that you want without any of these influences sort of overriding too much in any way?
Well, I guess it's like different, like when you take like musical influence that's become like a part of your subconscious and like what you project when you do play. And then just like outside influence, like in life and everything takes a pretty big role in how you project, how you feel and how you write. But yeah, I think just like when you listen to music that you're really into, you kind of subconsciously ingest it and it kind of projects even more when you put it out there, and like writing and playing, whether you know it or not. But yeah, definitely like knowing that you're influenced by something is also good to like keep in mind when you're writing, so you don't really take too much from it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a big Alter Bridge fan, and when the first few like bits of things that I wrote on guitar, I think a few of my friends were like, you might want to like listen to some other stuff, sort of politely, like you might want to try some other bands as well. And I think back about the things I wrote back then, I'm like, yeah, that's fair enough. I like to think it's sort of branched out from there. You're talking about how sort of life affecting your sort of, maybe your headspace going into the writing. Do you feel like, your mood affects how you write stuff, or are you pretty consistent when you pick the instrument up?
Yeah, I think mood, like I'm a very emotional person. So yeah, I think mood affects everything that I do. When I pick up an instrument, whether I'm pissed off, like usually like really, really angry riffs come out. And then, like if you're sad or something, it's like easier to like kind of write a chord progression that is meaningful. And yeah, and this is kind of how you speak through the instrument, it's kind of where words can't really go. So yeah, using the instrument to kind of project your emotion and all that is really helpful.
I feel like some of the riffs you guys have, you got some long words, not for, my words are maybe like 2 or 3 syllable, like my reading age of my riffs relatively is maybe not as high as yours, I think. I always find when I'm trying to write stuff, I don't know, I don't feel like if I try and write, I don't feel like if I'm feeling sad, I don't think necessarily a sad thing comes out. I don't know if that's a disconnect that I have somewhere. Or, it's the stereotypes of the angry drummer, going and sort of thrashing on the kit. Like, I just don't feel that. It's not like I don't translate what I'm sort of feeling into my music. I do feel conscious of that. I don't know if maybe, is that something that, I know it's a kind of a cathartic thing. That's almost a cliche to say that, with musicians kind of use it as their form of expression. Do you see it in that kind of same way?
No, I mean, yeah, like you had a point, like, you're not always, if you're sad, you're not going to always play sad music, but, cause you're trying to play something that makes you feel better. So when you're sad, you play your guitar, I think just touching the guitar and hearing sound comes out makes you feel better. And then I don't know, maybe there's some pent up emotion that you just don't really have an outlet for. And then you end up picking up your instrument and then it comes out, whether you know that you're feeling a certain way or not. I think that's important too, but, I think, I don't know, just expression in general through an instrument is pretty important. And I think just playing in general, like I said, like even if you if you don't know how you feel, like it will come out like on your instrument through your playing.
Yeah, because you guys have quite sort of techie music, I suppose, in the grand spectrum of all music. It's really quite far on the techie side if you compare it to like the charts or something, you know. When you kind of think of like what that's kind of, where's the difference, do you think, in how, say, you express something through your instrument compared to, say, like a pop musician who's sitting there with a ukulele writing 4-chord songs? You know, what is there any difference in how you're trying to express something, or do you think it's all the same kind of medium, just in different sort of, you know, colors and shapes and things?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the whole same, like the same thing, you know, like everyone has ways of outlet, whether it be pop music, jazz, or death metal or whatever. You're all getting something out of your system and putting it out in the world. Not to say that one's better than the other or one sounds better than the other or anything, but it's just, yeah, it's all about the human connection to the instrument and like putting it out there.
I saw a clip where you're saying that you used to be like the full sort of metal snob, right? Have I got that right?
I mean, when I was younger, I used to be a pretty big elitist when it came to metal, and like, I don't know, I liked my metal only a certain way. And when I was a kid, you know, just kind of went through it. But yeah, now that I'm older, I'm kind of over all that shit.
Yeah, I always like, my analogy is I was liking it to like coffee with like the heavier music, where you have like your, you know, your iced frappa, whatever, chino, and that's like, I don't know, maybe it's like really light metal. Maybe that's just like Nickelback or something, you know.
Yeah.
And then you like, you want a bit more oomph, and you get like, I don't know, you get a latte or something.
Yeah.
And that's maybe like, what would that be? I don't know who that would be. Like someone a bit more rocky. Maybe that's like Black Sabbath or something. Or
Yeah, like a little darker.
yeah, and then eventually you're drinking like 3 or 4 shots of espresso a day, and that's like your blast beats and stuff, you know. And that's just
where we're at now.
Yeah,
Not in the world.
but then you start to realize that like the sugary, there's a place for all of it in some way. What's the you know, a lot of people go through a kind of I don't think it's uncommon for people. There's a couple of things in the sort of metal listener and musician world. The one thing is, you definitely, I'm sure you're not the only person to have gone through the like metal snob. I'm sure I've kind of been there, like the sort of metal snob place, and then you kind of come around to, and most people come around to the idea of, okay, yeah, there is value in other stuff. And another thing is, a lot of people seem to have like a phase of metal music, you know, and I always find it quite condescending when people say, oh, I had a metal phase. I'm like, cheers, thanks for telling me that. What do you think it is about this? I feel like there's for me, my thinking behind it is that I think metal music seems to maybe come to people at a certain time in their life, and then you know, it's quite often it's seen as quite a cathartic kind of genre, right? It's quite a sort of you don't go to it just for like for no reason. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But do you think that kind of finding metal at a certain time in your life, do you think that kind of is part of what maybe got you into it, or is it just something you've always liked?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of grew up around metal. Like my dad, my uncle, my mom, like they're all into heavy rock, like Black Sabbath, and then like prog bands like Rush and King Crimson. And you know, I was like surrounded by like Eddie Van Halen records. A lot of my family were musicians, so I was just surrounded by like guitar music and you know, rock music, which eventually led to, you know, things that I needed to be faster and louder and heavier. And then it kind of just led me down the path to where we're at now. And I think like through high school too, you know, like being a young kid full of angst and of like hormones and everything, you know, like having metal there was like I don't know, like it became more of an identity and like helped kind of pave the way through like, I don't know, adolescence into adulthood, and just kind of, I don't know, help me kind of contextualize like emotions and how to deal with them and how to let it out. So I think metal was like always a good place to just kind of have free form for any emotion, because it's like such a vast, broad music spectrum within just metal that you can literally do anything. And I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? Like it's like kind of like jazz, you know, it's just kind of like open for anything to happen. It's just a little heavier than other kinds of music.
Yeah, I think I sort of almost borderline insulted one of my jazz friends when he put on a jazz backing track or like a tune or something, and I literally just played some random notes in a jazzy sort of way, and he went, "That sounded all right." Like, sorry, man, I just made all of that up. I don't know what any of that was. And he was like, "Oh, that kind of worked though." Like, okay.
It's all sick and everything.
Yeah, maybe I've got a hidden talent. I don't know. But yeah, what rather than spinning that on my bullshit, when in terms of like your identity with music, how do you feel like your sort of relationship between your identity and music has sort of shifted since you started getting into it properly?
I don't know. I think I've gotten a lot more mature with it, and yeah, like dropped the whole like elitist thing. Like, when you're younger and you like your identity becomes like metal and death metal and all that, and it's like you kind of feel like the black sheep because of it. And I don't know, you face a certain amount of criticism because of the music that you're into, and then I think you retreat further into that identity of like, fuck society, fuck everything that's not like, what I like, and if you don't like me, then you're against me, kind of thing. And I don't know if some people fall into that, but I fell into that in high school, and I think, growing up, it kind of just fell out of it. Like, oh, maybe it's not so grim and dark, all the time. But yeah, I mean, the same identity is there with metal, like I just have like a wider music palette now. So yeah, it's never not going to go away. Like for me, like metal was never a phase, it's kind of just like a part of who I am. And I feel like a lot of people in this scene, it's just kind of identify the same way as it. This is kind of like who you are, like maybe you've gone through different phases of elitism or like passion when it comes to metal, but I feel like we're all doing this because we love it. It's not like we're making much money. So
I think that's the only bit of elitism that remains in my head is the fact that I feel like generally, I don't know, I feel like generally speaking, sometimes when you get into the more technical music, whether that's metal or jazz or anything, you kind of, the people that are doing it for anything more than the sort of the self-expression, I feel like some of them start to sort of drop off, because I think you're expressing quite a complex thing really through quite complex music, and naturally it's not going to appeal to this huge audience that sort of pop music does. So ultimately, I mean, it's a long way around to saying you don't make as much money as I don't know, Ed Sheeran or someone. And I think that's the only bit of, I don't want to call it elitism, but maybe pride that I guess I have in being a somewhat
pride,
part
probably.
of. Yeah, but I don't feel like that's necessary. Is pride always a bad thing? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. It's not like I think some people would maybe just get more joy out of having the freedom and ability to play metal. And I mean, you can also like expand further. Like, I mean, Nurgle from Behemoth has like a country band and he sings in it, and he's able to do that while kind of still maintaining his like black metal image within it, which is pretty cool. But yeah, like, I mean, I don't know. It's just the freedom of art, it's great to have that ability and skill.
Yeah. Do you have any urges, in a parallel universe to sort of to take a different avenue, whether it's music or other forms of art or other sort of just creative stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to work in fine art outside of music, so I get a little bit of that world. And then also, like, I went to school for music composition and like film score, so I've been actively trying to get more into that industry and make connection. And I've done like a couple of cues here and there, but my main passion I think still is like film score, and just the freedom through that too. That's definitely still like a goal of mine to get to that point of being a like a really big film composer. But we'll see.
So is that the big dream, the sort of film score side of things? Yeah, if you had to.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I like spent. Like, that's why I moved to LA and went to school for, and still like have a lot of influence with that in like the Zenith passage and a lot of musical endeavors I do is just like the drama behind just like film music.
Yeah. So how do you feel? When you see something, when you see a visual piece, whatever it is, minus any music, or maybe even when you see it with someone else's music, like, how do you, what do you see? I mean, it's almost, I'm kind of asking, I guess, almost like it. Do you have, is there sort of an element of like synesthesia almost where, do you see an expression on someone's face and think, oh, that's a minor 9 chord that's going to go with that? Or, I know I'm being a bit silly, but like, if you see something like that, do you feel an immediate crossover to what you think that would be represented as in your head as a musical kind of component?
I mean, yeah, when I view film or see things that happen in reality that I don't know, maybe you can get like some influence from, you kind of just start playing music in your head, or I don't know, that kind of set a tone depending on your mood. You can set a tone given the motion that's happening in picture. Capturing tone, I think, is everything with that kind of, music. And when writing music for like the Zenith passage, like I have a lot of visuals that pop in my head when writing it, and I kind of just follow the thread when it comes to that. So yeah, like, there's always like, I think it's like a visual medium paired with, music is kind of essential. So I kind of always try to, borrow from one or the other when writing music.
What do you think has been like the most influential film score to you, musically or otherwise?
I'd say Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner. Yeah, I mean, Vangelis is a genius with synth music, and he's played a huge role and shaped me as a musician. And then, like obviously like Philip Glass. Philip Glass is a huge influence on me too, and I think his idea of just rhythmic movement is freaking amazing. But yeah, those two composers are a pretty massive influence on me.
Have you seen is it Danny Elfman? He's got like a
Danny Elfman too. I love that guy. He's got a great musical mind too, and yeah, everything that guy does is pure gold.
Isn't he a bit of a metalhead? Am I right? Has he got like a project or something, a metal?
Yeah, he has his like solo project, and actually Neely Broche plays guitar in his solo project, which is pretty damn cool. But yeah, he's definitely got some, metal in him. He's like, Mr. Bungle's like got some metal influence in it, and punk and everything.
Oh, so what,
it's Uncle Boingo. I'm sorry, I said Mr. Bungle.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I kind of didn't know if I connected the dots there or not. Like, I don't think I've ever. It's too. I mean, I don't think I've ever listened to Mr. Bungle. I don't know. Is that like end the call worthy bad, or is it just like?
I don't know. Mr. Bungle's tight. It's like really quirky and really kind of, he gets dark. It's kind of like a whole plethora of emotion in that band. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then another one I've not listened to that I feel I should is Emperor. I saw your shirt and I was like,
oh yeah.
I know Mark Holcomb, so I chatted to him a few episodes ago, and I know he's a big fan. I couldn't name a single song.
Oh man, you gotta check them out. Yeah, they just came to the United States for the first time in like 16 years, or toured the United States the first time in 16 years. So yeah, they played Anthems, which is like a really big. That's their second album, and yeah, like I watched them both nights in a row. They played in LA, then they played in Orange County, which is a little bit south of LA, and I watched them both nights. It was amazing. But yeah, like I love Emperor.
Yeah, what's one song I should check out by them? Because I've literally never listened to. It's all untouched for me.
I feel like a good I feel like it's probably their most I wouldn't say this their most well known song, but I feel like In the Worldless Chamber is like a good gateway into Emperor, because it's got a lot of really amazing like orchestral moments in it, and it's definitely a lot more orchestral than their previous works. And I think that record was the record that Ishan wrote entirely himself. But yeah, like In the Worldless Chamber is great. Like check out that song. It's really good.
Yeah, check. The one connection I have to Ishan how's that how you say his name? Ishan?
Sean. Yeah.
He the one connection I have is I had Bard from Leprous on, and he talked about playing, filling in for him or something. And I think he messed up a song or something and sent the click out the PA or something like that. And then he I made a little clip of that, and he like shared it. That's about as close as I've got.
Yeah, that's right. Because Leprous is Ishan's live band, and his I believe his wife's brother is the drummer and the singer, or the old singer. So they have like this connection to Leprous. It's pretty neat.
Oh, that would explain a lot. Yeah. So how did you kind of get into, in terms of like the film scoring stuff? And you said you're also in sort of working in fine art like day to day. It sounds like you're pretty surrounded by artsy kind of stuff. Do you ever need to just switch off from like creative stuff and just do something completely sort of mind-numbingly, like, I don't want to say boring, but you know what I mean, just like sort of something that you don't need to engage with? Do you ever need to switch off from that, or can you just keep sort of switching through these creative kind of outlets?
Well, the thing about like where I work in fine art is like I have the access and the creative output in that world, but I also do like very mind-numbing tasks and building some of the pieces that I build. So yeah, I mean, I kind of get the best of both worlds in that industry. Is like I get to, have the creative output and the creative, exploration there, and then also getting the mind-numbing part of it. And then I don't know, I think drum programming is very mind-numbing, but also therapeutic. I'd like program drums on this last record that we put out, and there is a lot of creativity to it, but there's also a lot of like extreme repetition to it. And then like, adjusting velocities per hit. And like I went through and got really, really crazy with a lot of the humanizing the drums a lot. So, I mean, that got pretty mind numbing. And then I'm like learning like Python, because I'm trying to get more into like software development. So like that's kind of mind numbing, or it's using a different part of my brain, I feel like. So, I mean, I guess it's kind of a little different.
Where does sounds like you got a lot of pursuits. Like what's the do you think there's something about you that is quite what's the word, like, I guess capable of, some people they have their thing and that's what they do. Do you think there's anything about you personally that kind of, where you find yourself more drawn to like doing a collection of things, or do you want to just, like you talk about the film score, do you want to just have that one thing and sort of ditch all these other pursuits? Where are you at with all of that?
I mean, yeah, I'm still just pursuing everything like that I can. Like I always try to, stay driven and have goal like I'm pretty goal oriented. So I try to like, keep my eye on the prize. But yeah, like film score is still a thing, but it's like such a very saturated market that it's very difficult to pursue. But it's not like I'm not going to continue to pursue that. But I don't know. Plus, like I've always had like an itch for like software development, and now that seeing the way that our world's going with, artificial intelligence becoming kind of more prominent and technology taking up more than like half of our life, I think it's kind of important to delve more into that industry. I think it's kind of like a future-proof industry. So trying to get a little, trying to get capable of doing some stuff with that too. But yeah, like I like to keep busy and, keep my mind fresh and like learn new things. So
proof your future in that. Yeah. It's important. I kind of think, I do wonder at what point songs and, they're already kind of doing that to an extent, aren't they? Sort of making, they're putting like Chester Bennington on songs now, like, and all that kind of stuff, which is, you can hear it's not like him, but it's only a matter of time, I think, before songs start kind of getting, and I do wonder, where do you think something I thought was interesting is like the question of how do we value creativity? Because do we value creativity just because of what it outputs, or do we value the inherent process? Because if you just value what it outputs, then if a computer does it, then it doesn't matter, does it really? Because then it's like, if all you value is just what comes out the other end.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like for me, it's all about the journey. The output is just as important too. And I know, I think like eventually, when technological singularity is there and AI is replicating all these bands that we love and expanding on their catalog. And I still think there's a human element that is just always going to be missed from like music that's like algorithmically created, because it's like kind of inevitable at this point, like that's going to happen. But there's always going to be a human element to creativity that can't be mimicked by a computer. So, and I think most people can identify that but I guess we'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, I do. I don't know what. Yeah, I've sort of beaten this analogy to death on the podcast, but I always talk about playing chess and how I only ever play against an actual person online, you know, just because I want to have that connection. I'm not interested in playing against a robot, even though it's the exact same thing. Like I could just play against a robot that's like the same rating as all the people I play against, and it could even change as I go. But I just want to have that connection, you know. I think that, so I do think that will stay. I have some hope there. How that's going to pan out, I don't know, because we're not there yet. They're there with chess. Like all the robots are better than everyone.
Oh yeah, didn't they just beat like that like world famous chess master?
They beat Gary Kasparov like 20 years ago or something. Like yeah. So it's
and everything and stormed. I remember seeing footage of that. It's crazy.
yeah. So I like to think, I hope that carries over into other creative pursuits, you know, because I think the songs will probably just get so good, and I think what will probably happen is hopefully something a bit like where I could play against the best chess computer in the world, but I kind of think, what's the point, you know? And I think that's I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that's what people will do. And I'm hoping that's what I do, kind of, when I just hear all this brilliant music that will start getting churned out. There'll be so much of it. It's like, well, there's so much of it now that it's almost unimportant, you know, because it's everything's so brilliant. So I might as well just listen to what a person's doing, you know.
But the thing about what music and games, it's like it's social, you know, so it's like it's hard to mimic, you know, human connection and social interaction. So that's always going to be, you know, relevant. And maybe that's why you pursue wanting to only play chess with a human, because of maybe the social engagement that comes with that, and the expectation of social engagement. And I think the same thing comes with, you know, music and live music is like, it's a social gathering, and it's as much as important it is to like digest it and listen to it as it is to like socially interact and digest it too.
Yeah, I think that sort of human element, well, the social element particularly, is maybe something that we don't acknowledge, particularly when, you know, you're talking about things like sort of programming parts and stuff. It doesn't feel in the moment as sociable maybe nowadays, with how, you know, a lot of the stuff goes online and it goes onto Instagram and all that kind of stuff, and ironically even in a social media. But I feel like it may be because so much music is now happening behind closed doors and then going out to the world, rather than happening, you know, sort of in real time as much, you know. Nowadays I feel like, it's easy to lose that sort of social element. Do you feel like that social side of music has disappeared a little bit with the way things are, or not really?
Yeah, I think it definitely has, like, through social media, which is, you know, social media is great too, and it also has like a lot of problems on the world. But yeah, I think it's definitely lost a lot of the community that it once had, you know. And I think, like, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of an older musician now. So I grew up when you had to, like, I used to hand out demos, like our Zenith Passage EP. I handed out demos to that, like, back in 2010. You know, like back in the 90s, like, I don't remember this, like, because I wasn't in the scene then, I was still a kid, but pressing record on the radio with your tape cassette, you know, and recording a song on the radio, like, I used to love doing that, and that was how I was able to, you know, listen to music a lot. And then back in like the black metal days, they would all, or not even black metal, just like metal in general, they, like, a big thing was just trading cassettes with everyone and copying cassettes over to make your own, like, kind of like P2P kind of thing. Like back in the day, it's like peer to peer, but with like physical cassettes. So I mean, that was like a huge thing back in the 90s too. And like, I think that community kind of disappeared. And then, like, I don't know, like magazines, and like just seeing like how metal bands kind of took off through like written magazines and like fan letters and like things that you can physically hold and feel and see. And I think, like, the whole thing right now with music is it's all access over ownership. And I think a lot of people kind of are losing a little bit of the meaning of like holding a physical album and opening the book liner and like seeing like everything, like all the lyrics, all the credits, like smelling it, like feeling it. Like I think that's like a sensation that is kind of going away, and it's kind of sad.
Mm. Yeah, I totally know what you mean. It's funny you talk as something as little as smelling it. I know what you mean. Like it's the whole kind of it. You could I risk sounding a bit sort of stuck up, going to be a bit a sort of sensory thing, but like I think it is in some way. Not just music, like all of this stuff. It's like there's more. I mean, it's like you said, there's more to it than just the art itself. And I think it's. But then you got to wonder, maybe vinyl came back and is still kind of hanging around. Right. And I was thinking the other day, do you reckon like magazines will come back? Like, I know they still exist and it's still around, but things like all your metal or just music magazines, there's still they've still got all the classic ones, but I kind of wonder if maybe they'll come back. People just get fed up of looking at all these websites. It's like, I want to just maybe I want to see all my music reviews and all that stuff just in a physical thing.
It's all part of the experience, like just touching and feeling it and like and just taking it in I think it has a lot more meaning, and might be even a little more impactful when you can physically hold like something like that. Like even like flipping through a book, like I have like a Kindle, and like reading on a Kindle is like way different than holding a book and feeling the page and hearing the sound of a page turn. Like there's almost like a emotional connection to like turning a page. Like it's almost like a successful feeling, like a little mini dopamine release, flipping a page because you've just made one step closer to progressing the story and finishing the story. So I know there's like a lot of little things like that probably come into play when having like a physical medium to digest and take in.
I started trying to read Dostoevsky, and turning a page is like, it's like, oh my god, I did it. Like I made another page. It was I can't remember. I think I'm only like 100 pages in. It's like 1,000 pages long.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what do you read? What's your like go-to?
I don't know. I kind of haven't really been reading too much lately just because of the record, but I'm like really into science fiction, like Michael Crichton. I've been a huge fan of Michael Crichton, and then I don't know, I was like always into like old like Tom Clancy stuff, and then Ken Follett was another one, like kind of like fantasy, like history kind of thing. And then like I don't know, there's like always like I always wanted to read the Tibetan Book of the Dead. This is like a lot of important information on life in there, apparently, from what I keep hearing from everyone. So that's like another piece of literature I want to kind of take in, but haven't really had the time.
Yeah, I feel like something that's we've become so hyper fixated on productivity nowadays that sometimes my head goes to, well, why don't I just read the summary? But it's like, it's not the same thing, is it? You're never going to get the same, especially if it's like a novel, I kind of, especially some of these books that are maybe not like self-help, but like what would you say, like reflective and hopefully make you think. I don't know if there's a word for making you think. Is that a way to describe books like that? I don't know. Thought-provoking? That's probably it. The irony of me not being able to think of that is pretty great. I don't know. I feel like there's, it's kind of sad. There's something you mentioned earlier that you talked about being quite like goal sort of oriented. How do you balance, this is something I was watching a video on earlier that I'd be interested to hear your take on. How do you balance being happy with where you are and being content with the things around you, which is the ultimate goal for most people? How do you balance that, living in the moment, with having that drive to go forward and find the things and pursue the things that you feel will take you where you want to be in life?
Yeah, it's kind of, I feel like I get wrapped up in the end goal, and then maybe sometimes forget the journey, but I also try to stop and appreciate the journey. And, it's just like when you're doing a road trip in a car, and it's like, you're kind of fixated on the destination, but you can also look out the window and appreciate everything that's, flying by you, and maybe take a moment to be grateful for being able to even do that. And I think with music, it's kind of the same thing. And, like this album I did, Date Elysium, is like a massive, massive achievement, because I just didn't think I'd ever be able to complete it, because the amount of work that I put into it is just like almost killed me. So, yeah, I think like now that I've gotten it out, I just don't know what to do. And it's kind of like, what do I do now? It's like kind of like a weird sensation, like, 6, 7 years of building up to this point, and it's finally out. And I think the suffering along the way and the victory of just writing and recording the record is, I think, more important than the outcome sometimes, just because of what you learn about yourself, and, what you learn about, like, recording, and like the discipline it takes to make something like that is very rewarding. But yeah, like, and I think the journey is almost more important than the destination sometimes.
But what do you feel like you have learned about yourself from the process of getting this album, right from day dot where it started through to where you are now?
Um, I don't know. I think,
Don't like writing albums.
yeah, I think just, I don't know, just staying focused, and trying to, I don't know, just stay motivated and driven, and just picking up your instrument kind of just, I don't know, always makes me feel like I got something important to do or something to achieve. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think trying to have that thing, trying to know what that thing is that you're trying to achieve. I think I've been stuck in a spot of like, I don't really know where. I know I want to do music and I know I want to write music, but I don't really know where, what direction I want to take. Any advice on where to go? If I don't know, I know I want to. I used to be in a metal band, and now I'm not. Still love music. Still want to write music, and been working on my singing a lot. Don't know if I want to just write acoustic songs, or if I want to be in like another metal band but front it. But then that's difficult because I want to write techie riffs, but I can't do that and sing. And that's a small bundle of the problems in my head. What's your advice?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I had writer's block, and I got stuck, and I took a break. Like, it's probably why it's taking so long to get this record out. Is like I took a break after leaving a band that I was in, and I kind of just like explored a different palette, like harmonically that wasn't really metal, and then circling back, and then just continuing to write no matter what, like just writing something, as long as you don't even use it, like you don't even have to use it or have any like notion of putting it out. But I think it's just like riding a bike, like you got to like ride it, and like exercising a muscle, you always got to exercise that creative muscle. And I think that really helps in kind of helping you figure out what you're going to do, and you can kind of learn about yourself and all that stuff.
Yeah, I noticed you sort of mentioned technology, and that's one of the sort of themes in the album, right? Is that kind of something you sort of touch on? What kind of things were you thinking about, or as a band collectively sort of discussing, that brought you to sort of have that as like a theme in the album?
I think it's just like a reflection of society, and like, where it be from our industry, our music industry, to like how social media has like its effect on society, and just kind of taking some sort of, I don't know, poetic attempt at explaining like how technology is infiltrating and dictating society, and where that will lead us, and if it's good or if it's bad. So yeah, it's kind of just like an exploration of like technology integrated with humanity.
Are you like a doomer, or do you think it will all end positively or somewhere in the middle?
I don't know. I mean, I think technology's helped us more than it's hurt us. So if that says anything, you can only expect that it'll help us more than it'll hurt us.
Or maybe we haven't seen how it's hurting us. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I suppose we're having this call, aren't we? It wouldn't be able to be a long flight. You have to really want to do this interview. Well, I suppose one or the other would have to. Yeah. Where do you think, like, in terms of your writing process, where do you think, can you see technology having more of an involvement in the next, 10 years in how you write stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean, it already does. Like, a lot of the record, I wrote riffs with using Guitar Pro, which is like a tablature software. That helped me get out a lot of riffs that I didn't have under my fingers yet, and then just like the ability to record digitally in my own home, and like most people they can do that in their own homes, and that technology in itself is like worth like millions of dollars. I think it's helped quite a bit. And then just like being able to like program drums, with drum samples, and then like bass, being able to program bass, being able to program anything you want, like using a computer is like, I think only helped us to like, kind of hone like our musical creative output and everything.
Yeah, I just realized something I completely forgot to mention. So the I've actually I suppose it kind of ties in with the technology. So I teach guitar day to day. That's my sort of bread and butter, and a student of mine came to me with one of your riffs and wanted, and so I think you owe me an apology, frankly, because it's not fun trying to, like it was like, yeah, I think I'm doing this bit right. I'm like, maybe, like, let me listen. Like,
Was it like tablature or something?
yeah, oh no, I think he, I can't remember if he went off of a playthrough or whether it was a tab. I can't remember exactly, but it was he wanted to sort of brush up on the techniques, and then it was interesting actually, because we went into like, how can you use that stuff in your own, we're talking about influences, right? How can you use that in your own style? He's a big like Dream Theater fan as well, so it's like, how do we, another one where he'll bring me a song, I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do. Well, I do, but like, there was one way he brought me a chord progression. He's like, yeah, I think it's doing this. I'm like, I think it might be too. Let's find out together. It's very much, I feel like that's very much our lessons. Like, do you kind of do you get people asking you proper like techie questions about your riffs and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, there's like a lot of technique that goes behind like, playing these gnarly riffs. And sometimes it's outside of my playing ability when I write it. And then I think in learning how to like play it and perform it has like helped me as a player. So it's like I'm constantly like pushing myself and discovering new ways to play it to make it sound better and make it sound cleaner, and just kind of more ergonomic on your hands. And yeah, I mean, with this kind of music, there's like everything is based on technique, and so I think there's like a big appreciation and understanding for certain technique that helps you get through a song or a riff.
Yeah. There's a certain level of concentration required at the very least for me. Like trying to, I just remember he was kind of showing me the riffs for the first time, and I'd heard you guys before, but then when he was showing me a few of the other songs he'd been kind of looking at, like, okay, I need to warm up a little bit before we get involved.
You warm up, you can like fuck your muscles up.
Yeah. What do you think, what is like your, so if he's trying to take in some influence from you, what are the things that you're most proud of in your style as a guitarist and as a writer, I guess, like as well, that you would be happiest if you heard someone else put into their music?
I guess my style, like talking about like style or like technique, like
I guess whatever you feel is more important, really.
I mean, I guess with like my style and writing style, I think that's probably more important. I kind of take a little more pride in my ability to write songs than my playing. But I don't know. I think just it's like using the instrument for what it is, as an expression and a tool for emotion. And I think that's like still the most important part of picking up an instrument, is like never forgetting why you're picking it up, is to let out something, whether you know it or not.
So I got a couple little questions to sort of close up. If you could pick any film that that you could put your own music to, so you could completely rewrite, you can go back in history and do your own thing with the movie, what do you think it would be?
I don't know. That's a hard question, because a lot of movies that I like, I think the score makes sense, and it kind of becomes like part of the immersion in that film is the music that they've put with it. So I don't really know, like if I don't really know how I'd feel about even trying to redo like a film that I like, because it wouldn't feel right.
Yeah,
have to be something that I don't have any influence from, or like anything that I've heard before. Otherwise it'll affect how I write it. So I don't really know it'd have to be like a blank slate.
Is there any films that you haven't seen, or TV series that you haven't seen, where it's like, those ones where I've not seen The Green Mile yet, and I feel like I should have seen that by now.
I don't know, like I guess like something that's interesting that I haven't seen that could be cool to do. I didn't see that Philip K. Dick TV adaptation they did of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. I didn't see that. It's on Amazon, but I would be interested to score that because like obviously Philip K. Dick is what inspired Blade Runner. So I don't know. I guess it'd just be like my rendition of the Vangelis Blade Runner score over a new TV series. So
yeah, nice. And have you seen Oppenheimer? Have you seen that yet?
I haven't seen it yet because in LA it's been sold out, like the 70 millimeter film, which is like the massive IMAX theater screen, and I don't want to see it like. I think it's meant to be seen in the way that Nolan shot it, which was in 70 mil. So I refuse to watch it other than 70 mil. So I haven't seen it yet because it's been sold out for like weeks, and it's continued to be sold out for the next like 3 weeks. So I'm kind of bummed, but I definitely want to see it because I know Ludwig, what was his name? Ludwig scored that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I heard it's like pretty damn incredible.
It's amazing. Yeah. I think the thing, this is not a spoiler at all, but the pacing of the movie, so it's a very long movie. You kind of, I would say like don't have any expectations of when things are like not when things are happening. It sounds like a really dumb way of putting it, but I don't know. I kind of, I won't try and spoil it. There's not much spoiler, I guess. There's no ground-breaking stuff going on. It's all in the history books, I guess. But I don't know. I found the pacing of it was really clever. It was really interesting, but it threw me off a little bit. I think that's as much as I'll say to try and not spoil it for you.
I tried not to watch any trailers, but I ended up listening to the soundtrack at work the other day, and I did notice like a very reoccurring motif, which is like the clicking. It's almost kind of like what Hans Zimmer did with what was that movie?
Interstellar with the ticking. Is that what you're gonna say?
It's like what's that? That's another Nolan movie, the war movie that he did.
That's one of the,
no, that's a different one.
I've forgotten the name of it. Dunkirk,
that's right.
One of the
there's like the motif there was the clicking sound, which is like a clock ticking because the time that they had before ships left. But I think I kind of noticed that too in when I listened to Ludwig's theme, and I tried not to like take too much from it, but I did notice a very like purposeful ticking sound throughout the entire soundtrack. So I imagine that has to do with like a ticking time bomb or something. So maybe that's what that meant. I
thought it was more to do with is it a Geiger counter? Is that how you say it? With the radiation? I assume that's what it would maybe be.
Oh, yeah.
That's really not a spoiler unless I've really not noticed something. That's not a,
No, that totally makes sense. Why that clicking? Because that's, the radiation meter. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's what I thought it might be. I think one of the best Nolan scenes is that Spitfire at the end of Dunkirk when it's just totally silent because obviously his engine's died, doesn't it? And he's just I just think that's such an amazing scene. I didn't appreciate it the first time. Then I watched it again, like, whoa. I forgot how good that was.
I forgot, did Roger Deakins do the cinematography for that one? Because he's like really big on those massive pano shots. Like, and I think that I remember the shot you're talking about is like when he's going and he's hitting the water, and it's like this massive panoramic of him just kind of gliding through the air. Yeah, there's like no sound happening. And there's like a moment, like just kind of pure peace, it seems like, before he crashes. But it's just so epic, man. Yeah, well, he lands it and then he blows it up, and then the scene was Tom Hardy with the thing just on fire in front of him, and you see the Germans coming over. That's such a good scene, man. That's so good. Goosebumps, man. That's absolutely.
Yeah, wicked. Well, what we'll do is we'll get a question for the next guest to open my next conversation, whenever that is. I don't actually know what it's going to be as of now. And an artist pick from you as well. An artist pick? Like someone you want to recommend. Musically? I think Ole Borud. He's in a band called X-Toll, and he's in another band called Flesh Killer. I highly suggest anyone listen to that guy. He's a phenomenal musician. He's Justin Timberlake meets Guthrie Govan. He's got a voice like Justin Timberlake and can play like Guthrie Govan. He's an absolute genius. I just pictured Justin Timberlake with Guthrie's hair. That's all I was kind of... That's what he looks like. Just kidding. No, he's a phenomenal musician. And I had the privilege to meet him when we were in Oslo a couple months ago and got to see him in concert. But I think that guy's a phenomenal musician. Nice. And then a question for the next guest. Got to start the conversation, so you can send me in any direction you want. Are you going to send me in the Spitfire without an engine, or the I don't know. I'm trying to think of another metaphor.
That's tough, man. I guess metaphor. Like, why even play music? Like, why do it?
Why? So why even play music, or why do it? Because why do it could be quite fun.
Like, why would you do it? Like, to begin with, why would you even do it? Like, what made you decide to do that?
Are we including? Because am I just opening with what would make you? What was it? Why would you decide to do that?
Why would you decide to go into music of all things that can happen in the world? Like,
that's a good question. Yeah, I quite like the idea of just saying, why would you do that? And that's just the opening, like no context.
Why would you do music? Like, of everything that you can possibly do in the world, you can create, freaking insane medicine that cures cancer and this and that. Why would you do music? Oh, it's
like those memes where, do we have a doctor on board? And like, doctor of music or musicology or something. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And then anything you want to plug to finish up as well?
Check out our new record, Data Elysium. Came out on Metal Blade Records July 21st. It's available on all streaming platforms. You can purchase the record physically. I think you should do that because I think it has a little more meaning. And then we have merch for sale on the website, metalblade.com or metalbladerecords.com. Just check us out and tell us what you think about us.
Awesome. Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, dude. Thank you.